Okay, so if we talk tree peonies for a minute, this is in late April. It's like April 22nd in zone 5B. This is a 4-year-old tree peony. It's got a very nice vase shape. If you see all of the branches coming up from the ground and they're sort of spreading outward, which is what you want, so they don't get too crowded. I have pruned this back and cut some branches off. If you see right here, I cut this one off because it's basically going to grow right into the other stem. So that's really the only time that you want to prune tree peonies, is when they're all the branches are sort of growing together, because once those leaf out, it's going to look like a big jumbled mess. You're not going to get large buds on it anyway because the sun won't be able to feed it properly. But if you see, they're just now inside here is a bud, and if you see, each one of these things is sort of protecting that little bud in the center, and that's what you want to see, those nice thick buds. All of these are going to have a bud in the center. We're going to have some nice blooms, and I'll show you when time comes what this is going to look like once it's in bloom. And there it sort of is in the center of my landscape, because once they bloom after spring, it sort of just becomes a base, you know, some greenery, nothing fantastic, while it makes buds for the next year by fall. So that's why it gets planted there. This one is also, I don't know what the best angle to do this is. I'm gonna think this side. So this one, and you can see this one is such a vigorous grower. If you're gonna start with a tree peony, this is one of the taller ones, and if you look at how many branches and just how stretched out those stalks are, oh, it's awesome. And I also pruned this one. It goes a little bit crazy, but look at the size of the buds. So this is a yellow one, high noon, very vigorous. Again, you want to go for sort of that open V shape from the bottom up. That way that the branches don't crowd each other. And this one, I mean, this one's just loaded. Each one of these is a bud, bud, bud. And these are big. And when this one fills out, I mean, this one obviously grows a lot bigger and taller than the other one, which is the same age. So again, depending on the variety of tree peony that you have, you're going to see some variances with height, size of the flower, size of the plant habit. But can't really beat this one. I can't wait to show it to you in the spring when it's actually blooming. You're gonna love it. This tree peony, this one, I'm not sure of the exact name of this peony, but it is white and it has really dark raspberry purple flares in the center. So I have a couple ideas of what it could be, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. But if you notice, see, this one is in sort of a part shade garden. So if you notice its shape, it's sort of leaning to the left a little bit. That is because that is where the sun path is. So it really goes a little bit up and a little bit left every year. It grows that way. But the important part is, as you can see, if you take a look, we have some nice buds coming. And that's all you can ask for on these. This one, 3 years old. If you check out, again, this one, the bud is sort of housed in the center as always, but this one is not really, the leaves aren't high up around it. So it's kind of interesting that they all have these different habits. But this one, again, they're protected by the leaves, and it's starting to say, hey, it's late April. I mean, it's time for them to start leafing out. They're one of the first things that start to come alive in spring. But each one of these in the center has a bud. So this one is going to be nice and loaded. You know, the branches, this one's going to be tall. We have a little side bud coming out. I did leave that branch because it was a nice sized bud, but you'll start to see, you know, this top piece here is one. There's nothing really going on at the V where the branches were, and most of the time the buds grow in there. So I'll want to cut this down to about here, just before that bud there, and we'll see what happens with that bud. I'm not sure if that bud's gonna make it, but I always leave them because some of them come out later. Some branches just do well every year and some branches don't, so you'll know which ones to prune off. It'll be pretty obvious probably by another 2 weeks or so. But be patient. There's no rush to cut anything off, and we'll see what this one looks like in bloom when we get there too. They usually bloom for us around May 17th through like the 25th, sort of that time frame, literally every year, even if we have a late spring or an early spring. That's sort of the bloom time, so it's kind of interesting. Okay, so on this one, this tree peony has a beautiful flower on it, supposedly. Listen, I've had this one for 3 years. 1 year, it was broken down to the ground. I broke like the main stem off, and it grew back, all 4 of these stems. It looks nice. And then every year it kind of just, if you look at the buds, where the buds are made, let's see if I can find this one, they just kind of dry out. If you look, like this is a bud that's going to be no good, and I'll leave it for a little bit, but you can just see it like peels right off. This one's already dead. It just crumbles right off. So what you'll see is the plant is not dead, because if you look toward the ground, you're going to see these pink buds coming up, and there's one there, and then on the side of the stem there's another pink bud, and a little bit up the stem you'll see some more color of it starting. On here there's a little small one, but those, you know, those are not going to be flowers. These are just producing buds. So, you know, at some point I have to make a decision on this one. Is it gonna make it? Because if it regenerates every year, you know, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something to give me more blooms every year. And this one just hasn't really been a vigorous one. I think it's called Sunrise. If you can see, it's not even that tall. It's maybe max 16 inches tall. So while it does make it, it's not anything like this peony where even if it's leaning, it's still producing, you know, 20 buds. So, you know, that's where you sort of have to be like, maybe I'm gonna yank him and put another one in there, and we'll give this to somebody else who wants to care for it and be as patient. I'm not so patient and kind sometimes, I guess. But anyway, so those are the peonies and what they look like in the spring. And as you can see, the tree peony is really starting to leaf out now, as well as get bigger buds. I mean, we are nice and loaded on this one. It looks really healthy. There's another bud over there. But as you can see, we had a couple 70-degree days, and they opened right up. That's how quickly they can go. So this is the next stage, and then now I will fertilize and get those buds really nice and big and beautiful. Get them ready to open. We'll go check on the other ones. So this is the one that I thought was dead and the buds had dried out. Some of them have decided to open. There's one. This one is really starting to come. And the bud, if you notice, oh, where am I? So this one is really starting. This one actually has a bud on it right there. I'm not quite sure why this one is hanging downward a little bit. It's almost like it got stuck, or maybe there's something on the other side holding it. I don't know. But we're gonna leave him. And we do have some nice stock coming from the ground. Now these, sometimes tree peonies are grafted, and you'll get some real herbaceous peony stalks coming up from the ground. In this case, this is a tree peony root. So we are getting some additional branches, which is good because we had some dieback. You'll see that branch looks dead, so I'll be cutting that one back. But we have some promise on this one, and as you know, that was the one that's been a little bit tough to establish this year. Okay, so as you can see, everything is really starting to pop up now, and this is the high noon one. This is such a vigorous one. If you remember, I showed you the buds that were tight after a few days of nice warm weather. This is the bud in the center. There's another one. Each one of these has a nice bud that's being protected in the center, and they are starting to really leaf out now, and there are quite a few. This is going to be a beautiful bloomer. Beautiful bloomer. I cannot wait to show you guys that one. Also in this garden, I have one more right here. So this tree peony really started leafing out. We have buds galore on this. Take a look in here. Can you see there's one right here? That's a bud. We got a bud up here. Oh gosh, this one is just loaded. This is going to be absolutely gorgeous.